Deputy Adams, thank you.
I think, Taoiseach, on top of all the other difficulties, is that the government, yourself as Taoiseach, give very opaque, obscure answers to very straight questions. And trying to get us a drip, 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 pardon the pun, attitude to this issue. Now, what we do know, contrary to what the government's saying, is that Uisce Éireann is seeking to impose a standing charge of 1/3 of its water bill. That's what it's looking for. And we know also that that's very, very high compared to charges in other states where it's as low as 10%. And what this is about another tax. The introduction of water charges is entirely a revenue-raising exercise and nothing less. And we've seen estimates that the average water bill could be as high as €300, and that's on top of all the other bills that people have had to face. And these are people who, I'm sure you know, are struggling and who are angered that Uisce Éireann gave 86 million of taxpayers' money to consultants. Now, the government told citizens from the very beginning that this whole issue was about conserving water, that most of the water bill would be based on the amount of water used, and this would be an incentive to control water use. But the higher the standing charge, I'm sure you will agree, the worse it is for water conservation and the worse it is for the householders. So would you agree with me that the standing charge, and there can be no doubt that Uisce Éireann is looking for this standing charge, so that's fact, and that it's looking for 1/3. Can you give the Dáil a view that this is unacceptable, that it should be rejected by the energy regulator? And can you tell us, can you not tell us here and now when the Dáil and when householders will be told, when will they have a clear idea of how much they will have to pay on water charges?
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Well, as I said to Deputy Martin, Uisce Éireann is not the government. And the figures that I've heard, the figures. No, I'd be very clear with you said you were fed up of opaque answers. Well, Uisce Éireann do not set the level of charge here. Uisce Éireann are perfectly entitled to send draft memos to the regulator if they so wish. As I said before, and I hope this is clear to you, the level of subvention provided by government will determine the average metered charge that people will pay. And the government have not decided on what that level of subvention is yet. There are all of these matters that have to be taken into consideration: the rate of metering, how you provide a fair assessment for houses that are not metered where water is used, the categories of personnel that require particular circumstances, such as people who might have particular medical conditions and they need that kind of attention. But what the government set out to do here, Deputy Adams, was to bring in a whole new opportunity to provide water infrastructure throughout the country for town and village and city. As you know, 40% of the water leaks away into the ground. You have 18,000 people having to live under boil water notices constantly, very much inferior pipeworks in various parts of the country. That all needs to be attended to. As the governments over the last number of years have been investing an average of 300 million in trying to maintain a creaking or a leaking infrastructure, it needs to have at its disposal 600 to 700 million per annum for investment in proper infrastructure. And that's not the case, but that will be the case under Irish Water, which will be able to borrow itself. And what government also said was that there would be a free allowance per household, and that above that allowance there would be a charge applied. It's obvious that, with so many families in the country, there has to be consideration of the family circumstances, numbers of children, so on. And these are all matters that government have to consider before we make the final decision. The regulator sets a standing charge, and that's dependent upon the level of subvention provided by government. So we'll make these decisions in good time, and people will be absolutely clear as to what their average standing charge will be.
Deputy Adams.
Yeah, well, you see, every so often, Taoiseach, you're very clear, and every so often, you give an answer which everybody here can understand. But the only thing that I understand from what you told me, and I'm really, really gratified to be given this news, is that Uisce Éireann is not the government. So thank you for that. Nothing else gave this House or this Dáil any insight on what the government was doing, except the wee bit towards the end that the regulator will set a standing charge. So now we deduce that there is going to be a standing charge. Now you go on to assert, without providing any evidence at all, that wastage, the other problems of leakage and so on, no evidence that this could have been better addressed by retaining responsibility for the service in the hands of democratically elected local authorities. And, you know, I remember the local government minister, Phil Hogan, saying that Irish Water would lead to savings of €2 billion for the taxpayer. Now, where's the evidence of that? Let's just look at what this is all about. And please, maybe give a straight answer to this question. Isn't this all a prelude to the privatisation of what should be a public service? Isn't this all the prep work being done to add yet another burden upon working families, upon members of the public out there, upon struggling householders? And isn't that what this is all about? Because it defies logic. If you are going to give the Dáil information and citizens information before the local government election, that you don't have that information now. So Taoiseach, would you own up to the fact that this is indeed subterfuge for bringing in the privatisation of our water public service?
Well, let me give you 4 clear answers. First of all, no decision has been made by the government on the level of water charges. No decision has been made by the government on the level of subvention. No decision has been made by the government on any standing charge. And you can take it that a decision has been made by the government that this is not the privatisation of water.
Thank you.